Welcome, my dear friends and my dear students, in my YouTube channel Online Teachers. As you know, the last part I have discussed about this chapter, the period of transitions. Today I will discuss the second part and rest of the chapters. So we'll finish today the chapter, and afterwards we'll discuss about the question answers. So first of all, we'll discuss about the Reformations, and here in this part I will discuss about the Reformation, Industrial Revolution, and Imperialism. These three portions were left. So first of all, we will come to the topic. So here the dating of the Reformations. Historian usually mark the date as 1517, means the early 16th century, with the publication of the Martin Luther's 95 Theses. They told it was the beginning of the Reformations, and the end can be taken as 1555, means the late of the 16th century, with a Peace of the Augsburg, which allowed the Lutherans as well as the Catholic churches to coexist in Germany. The Reformations of 16th century is one of the greatest events. So it was a greatest event in the 16th century of Europe. So we have to understand the meaning of the Reformations. The Reformations come from the word reform, which means making changes in something to make correct and acceptable. So if anyone asks you the what is Reformation, so you can see that act of changing a religious, political, or social institutions or system can be called a reformation. So what is reformation? The act of changing a religious, political, or social institutions or system can be called a reformation. Reformation began as an attempt of the Protestants to reform the Catholic Church. For reforming the Catholic Church, it was begun, and the Protestant Reformations, the 16th century, Protestant Reformation in the 16th century, religious, political, and intellectual and the cultural upheaval in Europe that began in the Germany under the Martin Luther and soon spread to the other parts of Europe also. Reforms along with the Luthers, Calvin from the France and King Henry VIII of England challenged the authority of the Pope and questioned the authority of the Church in interpreting the Bible. So now we'll discuss about the Martin Luther 95 thesis. So before that we have to know that who was the Martin Luther. Martin Luther of Germany was one of the greatest leaders of the Reformation. He was born in 1483 in Germany. After his university education, he decided to join a monastic order. He began preaching at the University of Wittenberg. Luther was appalled by the corruptions in the church and within the clergy, and Luther sparked the Reformation in 1517 by posting his 95 Theses on the door of the castle church in Wittenberg in Germany. The thesis was the list of the Actually, the thesis was the list of the statement that explained the Luther concern about the church. So actually, what was written in this thesis is 95 thesis, which is propounded two central belief that the Bible is the central religious authority and the humans may reach salvation only by their faith and not by their deeds. It was the main thought of his 95 thesis. Now we'll discuss about the Protestant Reformations. In 1521, the Luther was summoned. Before that, means actually Luther translated that in 15, not required to understand that who called him and in that one assembly. So we'll not go this that much big story. So first of all, you have to understand that in 1521 means actually the early 16th century. Luther at the time Luther translated the Bible into German and continued to distribute the pamphlets with his thought, means distribute the papers where he have written about the Protestant his thought against of the Catholic Church, and he distributed all over the Germany. The German people understood because it was written in German language only, and the German people, particularly the peasants who was a farmer, revolted in 1524. After getting the knowledge, after getting the informations, they have started revolt against of the Catholic Church. By the end of the Reformation, Lutheran churches and the Lutheranism was a follower of the Martin Luther was established all over the Germany. Means all become the follower of Martin Luther. This movement also spread to the Switzerland, France, England under their monarch King Henry VIII. Next, against of the Protestant Reformations, what the Catholic Church has done. The Catholic Church was the counter that impact, that effects of the uh, Protestant Reformation is known as the counter Reformations. What they have done against of the Protestant Reformation, whether all the peoples, European peoples become the follower of Martin Luther's. That Catholic Church was a little is little slow to respond to the Luthers and the other reforms. The church respond to the threat of for the Luthers is known as the counter reformation. Counter reformations. Counter reformations means against of the Protestant reformations. Whatever response came from the Catholic Church is called the counter reformations. In 1545, sorry, that in 1545 the church convened the Council of Trent to deal with the issues raised by the Protestant. So now, what is Council of Trent? Actually, the Council of Trent is only that Catholic Church had regained the faith of the peoples. Council of Trent is actually the process to regain the faith of the people by the Catholic Church. It's called the Counter of Council of Trent. Now we'll discuss about the impact. What was the impact of this reformation? So if we're going to impact, so it has a great impact in our society. It radically changed the society. Ancient religious values were set aside. It broke through the barriers of the classes and educations. Earlier the church governed the politics, but after reformation the king or the government ruled the state. The reformation brought about the true meaning individual liberty to follow one's own conscience. Church was divided, and in the great impact was the church was divided between the Catholics and Protestants, and the rise of the rise of the national churches led to the rise of nation states with all powers in the hands of the kings. Here also have the economical changes in the societies. Here you can see that Martin Luther's thesis, and I told about that. You can take this. You can take the screenshot of this video, this page, to remember about the Martin Luther. I told about it. Now we'll come to that second topic, the industrial revolutions. The industrial revolutions, actually, you know that began in England. When it was begun, it is begun in the 18th century, in the 18th centuries, and later spread to other parts of the world. The term industrial revolutions was fastly popularized by the Arnold Toynbee. You have to remember the name. The term industrial revolution was fastly popularized by the Arnold Toynbee and a British economic historian. He was a British economic historian. Toynbee explained the economic development of the Britain from 1760 to 1840. This industrial revolution spreaded fast began in Britain. So we have to understand why the industrial revolution is firstly began in Britain, not why in the France, why not in the Italy, why not in USA. So what are the causes? It was very important to develop the industrial revolutions or rise of the industrial revolution. First cause was the enclosure movement. You have to understand that movement about that. In early 18th century, Britain was the agriculture societies. 80% of the 80% of farmers had a small holding in rural regions. Means 80% of the land under of the farmers only, and 20% under of the big landlords. And the landlords could increase the production by introducing the machines, but the land was only 20%. So the British government passed a act during 18th century. In this act, the British Parliament allowed this big landlord to buy the small lands from these farmers. This at 80% land they can buy now by this act, and they can enclose or certain with this a boundary. Machines were introduced on this enclosed land. As a result, what happened? The productions increased greatly. Hence, it is often said that revolution in the agriculture resulted the industrial revolutions. So you can understand that 80% land now under control of this big landlord, and they have started already they have started using the machines. And these agriculture regulations, revolution in agriculture bring the result in the industry regulations. So agriculture regulations, it make the industries, it bring the new ideas of industrial revolutions. So next, only the agriculture or the lands cannot help to bring that industrial revolutions. Here, to run the machines require some fuel. So coal and iron essential resources also, that very important, and that one also were available in the plenty in Britain during that period. So agriculture based economy into the manufacture based economy, it was transport. So now that we are discussing that causes the enclosure movement, I told this enclosure movement, 80% land now under the control of big landlord. And these agricultural land bring the revolutions in industries. They have started using the machines, but for the machines require some the coal and iron. These also they got the capabilities in their Britain. The plenty of iron and steel were, and coal were there in this country. Now they were finding the overseas market. So that was also available, because during that period Britain was a big colonial power, the colonies of the Britain in India, also in Africa. But the finished good, how they will transport at that time, also the transport systems were developed. The steam engine was invented by the James Watt, rapidly improved the transportation systems. Goods and people could be carried far and faster from the one place to another place. And next, very important topic is a stable government. It is also required to increase the opportunities, or also help the investor to make the industries in their country, require a stable government. It was also in England at the time, during the 18th centuries. And last very important cause was a new inventions. So before going to discuss about the new invention, we see the chart of the inventors, inventions, and the year and their functions. You can see that. And I will not going to say about the name, the inventions, who was the inventor. You will just read, you will take the screenshot of it, and you will read your own. So flying shuttle, power loom, here you can see the John K inventors. And you, if you see the year, you can understand that it was the invention was happened during 18th century only. So spinning jenny, spinning mule, many invention was happened during 18th century. And you can see here I told about the steam engines. And the inventor was James Watt, his name also in this chart. So next topic, we'll discuss about the imperialism. So first of all, you have to understand what do you mean by the imperialism. Imperialism means one country's domination of the political, economic and social spheres of the another countries. So you can understand one country's dominations of the political, economic and social spheres of another country. Not that one country will control the another country, not only the political way, also economical, also social way, means all over the control by one country to the another countries. And this imperialism has different forms, like the colony, a territory that an imperial power ruled directly through the colonial official. Had that an protectorate was one of the form, had its own government. Protectors also had its own government, but its policies were guided by the foreign powers. In regions of the country in which the imperial's power had exclusive the trading rights. So these are the forms you have to read. The colony, they can make the colonies, and they have the imperial power ruled directly through the colonial officials. Protectorate, as a form of protectorate, they also use the imperialism ideas. With the power of imperial power, they can control over the territories and sphere of influence. This is also the imperial power had exclusive trading rights, actually had exclusive trading rights. Now that the main factors for the rise of imperialism in 18th centuries, which we can explain that the industrial revolution. Now we can explain this one, that why the what was the main factors the rise of imperialism in 18th century. So first of all, that main cause was industrial revolution created a great demand. Before that, before discuss imperialism, we have discussed about the industrial revolution, and in this industrial revolution, we already known the matter that created a great demand for the raw materials, and expanded the markets and pushed the newly industrialized countries to seek more and more colonies. The imperialist countries also needed cheap labors from their colonies. Therefore, they required a strong military to protect their economic interest. So, for their economic interest, they tried to control socially and politically over the another country. So, this is the main factor of rise of imperialism in 18th century. Clear? So now will come the last portions of the impact of the imperialisms. So it can discuss in the two way, positive impact and negative impact. So positive impact, the spread of Western education introduced as a technologies in the form of weapons, medicines, and farming method. And that one of the positive impact, they learned about the new governments and the getting organized. And if we're going to discuss about the negative impact, so that over exploitations of the colonies, it will also outbreak the world war. Large scale conflict in the quest of acquiring the colonies led to the outbreak of the major wars such as the first and second world war, large scale mass destruction, and finally end of the imperial powers. And these colonies provided the cheap sources of raw materials for their production at home. So it was a negative impact, but the impact greatly affect the our world and change the social societies, economical conditions of our societies. So it was the last portions of this topic. So now I will give some questions to identify the persons. So here I have given the pictures and written the marks 1, 2, 3, 4. You identify who are these famous persons and who are famous and which way they were related in this chapter with this chapter. So you will also comment and give the feedback. Thank you. Subscribe my channels and share it.